everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Fit Chicks Chat. My name is Laura Jackson.
And I'm Amanda Quinn.
And on today's episode, we are talking about holistic weight loss and why the old rules to weight loss no longer apply.
Love it.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we're talking about this is because we are also gearing up to our biggest free event of the year, which is we're having on January 28th to the 30th, which is called Holistic Nutrition Weight Loss Coach Week, where we're essentially going to be going behind the scenes for 3 days, teaching all about holistic weight loss coaching, how to do it, how to add it to your current business, how to launch nutrition programs with it, and then how to get into the successful mindset of a top coach so then you can go and grow your business with this skill set. So I'm really excited for this. And I'm really excited to be talking about this today because it's one of my favorite topics.
Me too. And I think one of the things too that I love about this topic that ties in so well with our coach week coming up is that this really is like the overview of why this is so important if you're a coach or if you're an aspiring coach, why it's so important for you to actually change your mindset around what weight loss even is, what it means, and why the old strategies, the old sort of how we used to do things doesn't necessarily apply and what we can do differently. And that's really, we dive into that a lot as well in Coach Week. And this is kind of like that brief overview of like giving you the bird's eye view, I guess, of like why this is so important.
Well, I think the thing that's always interesting about weight loss is that, no matter how many new things come out, new diets, new approaches, new, laser therapies or weight loss drugs or surgeries or whatever it is, still so many people don't really understand how weight loss actually works, right? Like how the body actually loses and gains weight and how to do it in a way that is sustainable for the long term and that's actually healthy for our bodies. So, all of those other things, it's funny because I always think of it like to me, holistic weight loss, it's like the foundation. Like it's the foundation, not even just of weight loss, but of, a body in balance, a healthy body, a body that is thriving, a body that is, able to release weight, reduce inflammation, has a healthy gut, has hormonal balance, like all of those things, right? And that's what we all strive for. And if we don't include that alongside of anything else we're doing, again, whether it be that you are on some sort of a weight loss drug or you've had surgery or you're, following some sort of a diet, if you don't have those foundations in place, none of that other stuff will work for long term. So it's like to me, I always think of holistic weight loss like everybody needs to know how to do this. And it's still, though, we still get into these old patterns of thinking when it comes to weight loss, that there is something else that is a quick fix or that is the answer, or you just haven't figured out the answer. And it's like we have to have this foundation in place in order then to personalize it and figure out what works exactly for us. And if we want to add in something else, like it goes alongside of any weight loss approach. But so many times we're still focusing on doing it all wrong.
Definitely. And I think too, one of the things that I've seen even like coaching over the years is that sometimes people will have this plan in place and it feels more like a holistic method where they're like, okay, I'm going to focus on my sleep and my nutrition and my movement and all of these things. And then when the results don't come in, we just boom, immediately like engage in like old habits, right? We go into like that old approach of like, okay, forget it. I'm just going to go into like crazy calorie restriction or this or that. Like they go into like those really old school approaches. And that's why I think the old rules no longer apply. I love the title of this episode because it's allowing us to kind of see there is a different pathway. Like holistic health really means it's like viewing the body as an interconnected system, viewing everything as it is all parts equal. Every single part matters and every single piece matters in order to be able to get to the end result that you desire for long term. If you're looking for a quick fix, those quick fixes will work for short term, but they will never work for the long term strategy.
Well, and it's something too. I was listening to a podcast. Well, not a podcast. It was like an interview, and this guy had Tony Robbins on. So it wasn't. I wasn't listening to. I was just randomly listening to this interview, and I'm like, oh, Tony Robbins is on this event. But he was talking a lot about just the mindset piece in success. And like success obviously can apply to any area of your life, whether it be weight loss or building a business or becoming a coach or whatever it is, right? Which is why in Coach Week, we do a whole entire workshop where we just talk about mindset because it's so important to this whole equation of, reaching your goals, helping your clients reach their goals, and you, of course, becoming an amazing coach. But he was just talking about how, it's so fascinating because it really is, we think of mindset as this afterthought when it comes to success, and it really is about 80% of our results come from our mindset, right? It
Hmm.
comes obviously, yes, it comes from the actions, but if we don't have the mindset in place, we will not take the actions that we need to take. And for
Hmm.
me, I always think about mindset too, especially when it comes to weight loss. And I say this a lot in Coach Week, it's not just about, managing your thoughts. It's also, to me, it's about your education. Like, it's about having the mindset that you are leading your own nutrition or your clients are leading their own nutrition. And I think education and understanding, even what we're going to talk about today, is just, it's so important because awareness is like the biggest step to change, right? Like, it's the biggest step to
Hmm.
make a change. We can't change what we're not aware of. So the more we understand how this all works, and that's how I ended up getting into this, like going on my weight loss journey, because I was tired of hearing all of these things that, about go on, the carb addicts diet or like cut calories really low or do this. And none of it was working. So I was like, forget it. I'm just going to educate myself. Like, I'm just going to fully educate myself on how this all works and not just listen to someone telling me. And that's how, I started to really have so many aha moments because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this all wrong. And like, I'm actually doing things that are working against my body instead of for my body, which is making this even harder for me. So
Hmm.
I just love this idea. Like to me, it's like education, managing your mind, and then of course taking the actions that you're going to take to get to your goals. So
Hmm.
let's talk about why why traditional weight loss actually does not work. And
Yeah.
if you've been in our world for a while, you've probably heard us talk about this quite a bit. But I'm going to keep talking about it and talking about it because I think it's, even the other day I was at the gym and I was talking to this lady in the change room, and she was saying how, her New Year's resolution is to lose 20 pounds. And she's like, so like this week, I've just been doing my juicing. That's all I have for breakfast and lunch is a juice. And, I'm just having protein and some veggies for dinner, and that's it. And I was thinking in my mind, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty low calories. And she's working out 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So,
Like she must
but
be
her
really
mentality was
hungry.
like, okay, I just got to cut those calories. I got to eat the quote unquote clean foods. I'm like, oh, okay. We have to look at the bigger picture. So I love talking about
Hmm.
why things don't work, first of all.
For sure. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the fact that when we look at old methods, I think it's the overemphasis on calorie restriction, like what you were just talking about, right? It's looking at calorie restriction and saying, everybody needs to be on a 1,200 calorie a day diet. Like that was like the old thing. Like I remember, you know, totally aging myself, but back in the day when it was like all the magazine covers and all that kind of stuff, it was always like the 1,200 calorie a day diet, lose fat with this like 1,000 calories a day or 1,200 calories a day. And it was so restrictive and so limited. And all of those calories, the interesting thing was it never mattered what was involved in those calories. It was just as long as you're eating those calories. So it was never looking at like there was this overemphasis on like the calories being restrictive, but not actually any emphasis on actually the quality of what you're eating. I think that's definitely one of the old things that I can think of that's like very evident
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
And
That's a big one for me for sure.
well, and it's fascinating because we still don't really talk about quality that much, especially when it comes to weight loss, right? Like we still
Mm.
like there's not that much emphasis on quality. Like in holistic weight loss, the very first, so we have our fit checks approach. The top layer of it, the very first thing is looking at the quality of your food because you can't support a body imbalance, which we'll talk about that in a minute. You can't support a body imbalance if you don't have the right building blocks, which come from our food, right? So that's our macronutrients, our proteins, our carbs, our fats, and then of course our micronutrients, which are like our vitamins and minerals. So And before we start going into reducing calories or, changing the way we structure our meals or our meal timing or all these other things, if we're still eating Doritos, but we're eating, in the right 1,000 calorie range or whatever it is, but all we're eating is Doritos and some cheese and a diet pop, well, okay, all of those other things that we focus on doing are not going to work again for long term because your body's going to be out of balance because it's going to be craving the nutrition it needs to function. Your hormones will be
Hmm.
out of whack. Your digestion's going to be out of whack. Your gut health will be out of whack. You'll be inflamed. Like all of these things, right? So I always think of it like a stepping stone or like a upside down like a funnel, right? The biggest thing at first before we look at anything else, we have to look at the quality of our food. And that's where, as you were saying, like still to this day, traditional diets don't talk about that. They're not like, okay, let's look at what's actually in your food before they just start saying, okay, let's start to reduce calories. And
1,200
then,
calories. Yeah. And then
yeah,
they just start giving you like processed foods that you
shakes.
can eat and the 100-calorie packs and the frozen dinners and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's even like the other day I was serving my son, like we were making dinner, and I was making something with white rice. And I was thinking about it because I was like, oh, it's so interesting. Like for so long, how many people are against white rice? Like it's this, terrible food. But again, it depends on what
Hmm.
lens you're looking at through because millions of people around the world survive off of white rice, right?
Correct.
But it's also to me, especially when, for again, looking at holistic weight loss, holistic health in like the health of my child, one of the biggest things for me is quality, right? Real whole foods. So that is the first thing. Now, yes, I could give him brown rice that had, you know what I mean, more fiber in it, was less processed. But just alone for me to be able to give him, rice mixed with protein and veggies and things like that, it's like that food does not have additives in it. It doesn't have pumped full of preservatives and chemicals and things that are keeping our foods basically stable to sit on grocery store shelves, right? So that alone is better quality for your body that but we're so confused, right? What is quality even? Because again, when it comes to weight loss, like don't eat carbs, cut out rice, potatoes, da da da. Da. But you can drink this 500-calorie shake that's pumped full and enriched with all these vitamins and put back in there. Like it's just so it's looking at again like the quality, but also to the way the food is created is such a big thing because
Hmm.
even real whole foods can be highly processed.
Definitely. No, I agree with that. And I think there's been such an emphasis for so long on like the foods to avoid, the bad foods, good foods, all that kind of stuff. And some of them are real whole foods, like a potato or like rice, like you said, that, one of the things I find that's probably the easiest is just to try to think the food that I'm eating, is it one ingredient, meaning it's one food, it's an apple, it's a potato, it's rice, it's chicken, it's broccoli. And then you kind of know, you're like, okay, good. I'm on a good quality food track. If you're thinking about it from that lens, like that's
Yep.
actually the rule of thumb that I try to live by in our house is, and that was the simplest way that I could explain it even to my husband was like, if you don't know, if it's like a full ingredient list, then you know that it's probably not the best decision. But if it's just chicken and rice, like last night we had lemon chicken and rice, it was just grilled chicken with brown rice, fresh lemon squeezed on top. That was it. And then we had broccoli. And it was just like literally four different foods, all one ingredient, right?
Well,
And it
and
was
that's the
great.
thing
It was
that's
delicious.
funny because even in our certification, we do have a section on coaching on reading nutrition labels. And I say at
Yeah.
the beginning of the section on it that our goal though is for our clients to eat things without nutrition labels. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm a coach, I can coach on nutrition labels, but I don't want you to eat anything with nutrition labels, or I recommend
If you
not, you know
are
what I mean? Like
gonna, I'm gonna help you. Yeah.
exactly. But it's
But
just,
that's definitely the biggest thing I think when you think about like what is the old school approach, I think that that's probably the biggest one that comes to my mind is that it's like it's the not focusing on quality and only focusing on the caloric um not deficit, the calories of the actual diet. So how can
well,
we
yeah,
limit your
it's
calories? And we don't care what that is as long as it fits within the range.
and there still is a massive argument, like because again, we really like black and white answers, right? like as human beings. It gives us a sense of certainty. So we want things to be right or wrong. We don't want things to sit in the shades of gray. And of course, when it comes to health, everything is kind of a shade of gray because like we're all so different. So what would work for me, maybe I need more protein than somebody else does. I can lose weight on more calories than someone else can. I need more fats than someone, you know what I mean? Like it just depends on your makeup, your diet history, your like your hormones, so many different things, right?
Mhm.
But there's this big debate that's like this idea around calories. Like people will still say, but no, that's actually is all that matters. And the truth is you will lose weight if you reduce calories, right? So it
Period.
is
Yeah.
right. But where it goes into the wrong factor for, in my opinion, is that it's not set up for long-term success. It's not set up for health. We're looking at it through the lens of getting the number down on the scale, which is the way that most diets are built and the way that weight loss is typically approached, right? Because the goal is let's get that number down on the scale, and that proves that we have been successful. But if you were to
Correct.
follow that person who has done that diet, and yes, you are right, if you cut calories, you will, even if you just ate 500 calories of Doritos a day, you will lose weight. But let's look at it from a different lens, right? How long would you be able to actually stick to that diet?
Mhm.
Probably not longer than I would say 2 weeks. Going low calorie, your body starts fighting back with cravings, right? Then you go into how long after that are you going to start to feel really, really crappy, right? Because you're not giving yourself that raw materials that we talked about, the vitamins, the minerals, the macronutrients we need to thrive for energy. So our cells now are starving for energy because we don't have any good fuel to use. And then
Mhm.
you won't be able to stick, your body's going to shoot back with huge cravings on top of that. And your metabolism will slowly start to slow down because you're eating too low of calories for your body, which we never want to be on a diet, a caloric restriction diet for a really long period of time. So, like, if you were to follow this person, like, yes, so it is correct you will lose weight in the short term, and that would prove it right that it's energy balance, right? Like, if you consume less than your body needs, your body will eventually start to lose weight, like if you're starving yourself. However, if we're looking for long-term successful weight loss, like that is not going to work for the long term. And which is why 93% of traditional diets fail. Only 7% of people are successful. And I don't even know if that's been studied after, like that was after 5 years of following people. I don't even know if that's even correct, right? Like,
No, I mean, yeah, it's like, is it 1%? Is it 2%? If you're following that kind of a diet. Well, even if you think back, and again, totally aging us, but back in the day, that TV show that was on The Biggest Loser, and the amount of people, the contestants that went through that. So The Biggest Loser, for anyone who's listening who maybe didn't see this, it was a TV show that was like a big, like nationwide sort of like sensation. Like it was a top show for a
I don't know.
long
I think it's still
time.
out. Is it still
I
out?
don't I don't think so. Um, but it was like a show that basically took extreme measures to help people lose weight as quickly as possible. And it was a competition that basically people would go and they would do like crazy training and they would have limited calories. They would have a trainer that was dedicated to them and they were separated into teams. And each team leader, the trainer, would take like extreme measures with every person and do all these things. And people would then at the end of the week they would get on a scale on public television and be like you're either down weight or you're up weight or you're the same, and then they would celebrate or feel upset or ashamed or whatever. Like it was a very like emotional roller coaster of a show. And after, like, there were so many people on that show that would have like extreme changes in terms of weight loss and things like that over the period of time of filming. But then at the end of it, and I don't know the statistic of this, but I know for a fact that at the end of it, so many of those contestants who had this insane life-changing, health-changing journey during the show would then result back into gaining the same weight or gaining more weight back. Because what they were doing on a show is so extreme that there's no way that you could then go stepping out of that studio and go into your real life and be like, okay, I'm going to train for 8 hours a day and I'm going to eat 1,200 calories. You don't have the chefs, you don't have the trainers, you don't have the time. So we have to be realistic. It's like we have to think we have to prioritize our long-term health over short-term gains. That's really what it comes down to. And I think the old school approach was really focused on just short-term gains and really focusing on getting quick wins and fixes as quickly as possible so that we could at least feel successful in that moment.
Which is where like the mindset part really comes into it. And it's that was never talked about, right? During the whole traditional way that weight loss is. It's just like, okay, eat this, not that. Do this, don't do that. But then it's like there's a human being who is a part of this, who has a lot of, whether it be emotions around food, a lot of like self-loathing that either will for like can, derail your plan, derail your progress, or can like make you do it. Like I'm one of those people like I used to be able to hate myself into doing things because I hated
Mhm.
myself so much that I thought if I would do these things, I would feel better. So it's like if we don't look at the human being who's actually doing the thing as well, like even it's nice to even say like, oh, it's all about long-term health. But when someone's like, I hate my body, I just want to lose weight, I want to feel better about myself. The thought of doing long-term health, they're kind of like, wah, wah. You know what I mean? They're like, I would just do anything, which
Absolutely.
is why the weight loss market is still so popular. If people say, here's a quick fix for you, people are like, yes, there's a solution to my problem.
Mhm.
Which is why I think that holistic weight loss too, it's like it's not as sexy as a cell because it's not fast, it's not easy,
Because
it's
you're not
not,
like,
you know what
here's
I
the
mean? Like,
magic potion. Yeah, you're not like, here's the
exactly.
magic potion. But the one thing that I always say to our grads whenever I'm chatting with them after they graduate and they're like, okay, like, what makes me so different? I'm like, you could literally tell somebody, I can help you never diet again. That's actually a legitimate statement that you can make as a holistic weight loss coach. And think about how powerful that freaking statement is. I almost swore that freaking statement is though, because you think about it, it's like being able to say to someone, oh, if for the past 30 years of your life you've been on a diet, you've been on every single diet, you've done every single different program, you've done all these different things, and I actually have something that can help you never have to diet again, I'd be like, sign me up immediately. Like, take all
Mhm.
my money and sign me up because that is the thing that it's like they get to this point where they're just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do any more cabbage soup diets or quick fixes or pop any more pills or pump myself full of different things. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. And they get to that place. So that's where you come in as a holistic weight loss coach. It's like you now actually can do something that is completely different and unique from anything they've ever done in the past. You have a brand new opportunity to help them change their life. And I think it's not like, oh, I've got a lot of work for you ahead. That's not the
Yeah.
sexy part. That's the horrible part of like, you never want to sell the work. You want to sell the result. The result is that you can actually help them legitimately never have to diet again if you actually know how to do this. And
But I always think too, like,
that's where it's like life changing.
well, yeah, and I always say in Coach Week, which hopefully you guys will be coming to, is, weight loss is a skill. Nutrition, health is a skill. We're not born knowing this skill, right? And then that's the problem is that then we start to feel so out of control, like we don't have any way to lead our own lives. We feel like we're at the mercy of diets. We feel like we're at the mercy of media. And then that's when we end up getting sucked into signing up for these quick fixes or these traditional diets. And then we feel even worse about ourselves because it doesn't work. Then we're like, oh, the mindset comes in, I'm a failure. I can't do anything. I'm meant to, be unhealthy. And then it starts that cycle again, right?
Hmm.
So it's like I always, like I was saying, it's like the education, like what you give to somebody and what you give to yourself. And it's so hard in the moment again because you just want to feel better. You just want to feel better in your body. But the thing that's so cool is like once you get someone to follow a holistic weight loss plan for a month, right? They are going to start to feel completely different. The first 2 weeks, they might feel like complete crap. Let's just be honest here. Because
Yeah.
when you are shifting to a real approach, right? And you're shifting from being a sugar burner into a fat burner, and your body's switching systems, right? And how it functions. It's used to getting carbohydrates all the time, and maybe, you're shifting to more real, well, you are shifting to more real whole foods. The body feels like, what are you doing to me? It's like the first 2 weeks, it's kind of like, you might not feel so great. However, by the end of 4 weeks, you're going to feel amazing. And then that's when, once you start to get that feeling of like the energy, the sleep is better, your digestion's better, you feel less bloated, your pants are feeling better, you might have numbers down on the scale. You're like, oh my gosh, this is actually working, and I just want to kind of keep on going. And like that's the thing where because what you're doing is you're changing your biology, you're changing Well, your psychology and your biology, you're changing the way you think, you're changing the way you eat, you're changing the way you act, and your body is responding to that. And especially if you've been coming from doing a diet that has been highly processed or you're not eating, it's not even like I'll have people who will say, who have come to me who will say, but I already eat, real whole foods. Like it's not, I don't eat junk food. I don't eat chips and chocolate and candy. I don't eat any of those things. So like I don't understand why I can't lose weight. And then I look at either the quantity of what they're eating, because we can overeat on real whole foods, but I also look at the balance. And
Hmm.
a lot of times they're not eating enough protein, right? They're not balancing out their meals. They're not getting enough healthy fats. So their body is still out of balance, right? Because it's not getting enough of each of those materials. Like that's where it gets fascinating to me because it's not just like I was saying, we start with the quality, then we start to move down to the other coaching tools, but we have to start with the main one. So it's like, I just, I always think that, it's that if you can get someone to do it for 4 weeks, and this is for me, like I am so grateful. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I'm 45 now, and I'm so grateful that I had a weight loss struggle that led me to where I am now, which is crazy to think because, it's like when they say, like it'll all make sense later on. And when you look back at
Yeah.
your life, you can see now why certain things have happened. It's like that complete hell I went through was for me to be where I am now. But if I never would have had that struggle, like let's say I never, maybe I was always skinny. I never struggled with weight. I never would have gotten interested in nutrition. If I never was interested in nutrition, I never would have taken care of my body the way that I have over the last, 15 years. And now at 45, I'm at that age where I'm like, thank goodness I am because, already have, a good amount of muscle mass, skincare, like my bone density, things that matter to me now that wouldn't have mattered before. I'm like, I'm setting myself up for success in the second half of my life. But that's where it's like, it starts sometimes with weight loss, and then, you get all these other benefits because our body's an interconnected system. And that's the thing we talk about a lot in Coach Week is how it's everything is connected to each other. So it really, really matters for our body to be in balance, right? Like if we're fueling ourselves properly, and then we have inflammation, then we have joint pain. Sometimes, like going on a holistic weight loss journey, then suddenly your joint pain alleviates, right?
Hmm.
Suddenly your skin clears up that you've had issues with forever. There's so many things that play
It's
into it. So as we start to
fascinating.
like it's like you're literally getting 500 bangs for your buck. You know what I mean? When you focus on
I
holistic weight loss, like
know.
weight loss is one piece of the puzzle, but you get all of these other things, and that's the stuff that gets me so excited. But I understand for someone who's brand new to this, they just want the weight loss, right? Like it's like,
And
and
that's
then the further
totally
you get into it,
fine.
you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing for everything.
But that's the thing. And for anyone who's listening, who is either like coaching someone, aspiring coaching, or who is just doing this on their own journey, like even if your only thing that you actually care about right now is just getting weight loss, like getting the scale moving, that is totally fine because all the other things will just come
Yeah.
naturally. Those will just happen. It's so interesting when you were talking about like all the different things when you were like, oh yeah, like skincare and joint care and stuff. It just reminded me, and this is not really about weight loss, but it's something that I just wanted to share that I thought was really fascinating about how everything is interconnected. So for a while, I was really dehydrated and I didn't know. I realized that I was, but I was like, I thought I was drinking enough water and I clearly was not. And I was drinking too much caffeine and I think I was dehydrating myself. And so I started realizing it because I was like, oh my gosh, my mouth is so dry all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? And so now I'm very dedicated to my hydration. But what's fascinating is I was getting like a lot of like leg cramps like in my calves in the middle of the night and things like that. And I was also getting a lot of like pins and needle feelings in my legs. And I was like, what is happening to my body? And ever since I've been fully hydrated again, thanks to my soda stream, which I'm not sponsored by, but I should be because I love it so much,
I
and
know
drinking all my water.
I've had one for a couple of years and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it that you love it.
I'm obsessed. But ever since I've had that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can tell everyone like I don't wake up with those cramps anymore. I don't have those pins and needles anymore. And I'm like, it has to be that. It has to 100% because I can't think of anything else. There's nothing else I've changed other than my hydration. But then it just goes to show you how all of these things are interconnected. Your entire body, every piece matters. It's all like building blocks and they all one affects the other. And so when we don't focus on one thing, or when we do start focusing on something, other things automatically get triggered or get affected in some different way. And so I just thought it was so cool because you were just talking about that. So I just wanted to share that with everyone because I think it's like I'm so happy about it, but then I'm also like, oh, it's such a good reminder of how every piece matters.
Well, I've heard this so many times. I mean, again, in my life too, like one of the biggest things for me with focusing on holistic weight loss was anxiety being gone.
Mm,
Like, and being, or it coming, but and being able to manage it as it comes. Because
right.
my physical body would not be triggered as much by, you know what I mean? Like, because there's different types of anxiety, obviously, but it was for me that was something like I really balanced instead of having these kind of highs and lows. I've heard from students, same thing, going from anything to be their cravings, like not having any more cravings, to having ulcers that they've been able to manage now without medication, joint pain, arthritis, like things, because nutrition is the number one thing that is within our control that we can do to contribute or to take away from our health. It literally is like the number one thing. Exercise is in there too, but it's not as important as nutrition. We need nutrition to live. We can
Hmm.
not exercise and still live. You know what I mean? Like building muscle, whatnot. But like we cannot live after a certain amount of time without food or water. So it's like all of the foods that we're putting in our body, they're either adding to our health or taking away from it. And even today, actually, I just saw in the news that the FDA has finally just banned red food dyes in the States, right? There's been
Hmm.
all of this,
That was a huge
conversations about this
talk
for
for
so
so
long.
long. Hmm.
And I'm like, where we live in Canada, it's already banned. We don't put it in our food because we know it causes cancer. And I'm so excited that they finally removed it. But it's like, these are the things that, again, like we are unknowingly or knowingly putting into our bodies, but not knowing the effects of it, which is why, the more we can go to like a natural approach, a quality, a one ingredient food label, a no food label, the more we're
Yeah.
going to be moving towards in that direction. So it's not about like, this is the one thing I always think is interesting because I'm not like, a lot of people when they think of holistic nutrition, they think of people who are a lot more like homesteaders or, like very like they're vegans or they, completely only eat everything so nutritious. And I've always felt like one of my goals was I wanted to bring a holistic approach to a more like mainstream lifestyle because I feel like there's so many things like for me if you were to look at me or meet me, I'm not here like taking 85 gazillion supplements and doing all this stuff, but I just so believe in looking at this from the whole picture. And I think, again, we've seen it in thousands of our students results and their clients and our clients and all of this stuff. But it's just, I feel like we just need to talk about this more. It's like, because to me, I'm like, how is that even that red food dye is still in our food? Like, how is this still even a
Hmm.
conversation? It makes zero sense to me, right? It makes zero sense to me. A lot of the things that we know within the holistic world that we've been having conversations about for years that are now becoming mainstream conversations. And it's like, I just really want to help coaches and people be able to incorporate this holistic approach in a way that doesn't feel like they have to be a certain type of person or you know what I mean? Like it has to be in a certain type of look or
Well,
box
making
or
it,
I have to make all of
yeah.
my, my home cleaning product. Like it's overwhelming. Like you feel it doesn't have to be like that, but it's about doing things in a way, and again, understanding the tools and the process to do that you can implement it in your life, no matter where you're at, no matter what level you're at. If you're just starting, if you're
Well, no
coaching for a
matter
long
what,
time.
yeah. No matter if you're like someone who wants to do those things, has the space and time to do those things, or if you're someone who's like, I still want to just be able to shop at my regular grocer and get my
Yeah.
things and be able to still follow this type of a healthy living lifestyle and plan. If that's like it could go from either extreme, but it doesn't have to be just one way. And I think that's like such a big thing is that people don't have to feel like, you've got to go buy a million different supplements and spend all this
Yeah.
money at all these whole food stores or these health food stores and things like that. And you don't have to buy all these contraptions and blah, blah, blah. You can literally do it just by like what I said last night. We had rice, chicken, broccoli, and lemons. That's how I made dinner. Those were the ingredients of our dinner, and that was it, right? And that's all stuff I got at my regular grocer. So it can take one way. It can be like, hey, I make all my stuff on my own and I make my own butter and I do these things. And that's amazing. If you have the ability to do that, like, cool, that's amazing. But then also it can be the other side of it where it's like, I still have to fit everything into my day to day and I'm going to go buy all these things, but I have to do it in a way that still promotes the same lifestyle that I desire, the same outcome that I desire.
Well, yeah, and that's why I'm so excited about I love doing our holistic coach week. I love it because we get people
Yeah.
from around the world who sometimes it's their very first time even hearing about holistic weight loss. They're like, what the heck is this? Or we have coaches that show up who are coaching clients and are struggling to get them results. And they're like, oh my gosh, this totally makes sense. Now I know how to build my programs for them. I know how to support my clients. Or it's for people who are looking to get into coaching and who are like, oh, I see how you could coach another person on this. Like, there's just so many, I think, aha moments that happen during it. And looking at this as a thing of not being, intimidating or extreme. It's just, we don't have to look at weight loss or health through this idea of strictness or traditional methods or doing everything the way someone does it. Like that's the thing that holistic weight loss is not. It is not cookie cutter. It's different for every person. So again, I said, a lot of times people think that a holistic approach is plant-based or vegan. That's one way you could do it, right? You also could do it
Yeah.
consuming meat, right? Neither one is right or wrong. It's what works for you and your body, your ethics, whatever that is. So it does not follow cookie cutter plans. But what it does do is it does focus on making sure your hormones are in balance
Hmm.
and it makes sure that you're focusing on other things outside of the scale, right? You're focusing on other measures of success and other measures of health. It also makes sure that you're not just looking at what's on your plate, but you're looking at your stress levels, your quality of life, your happiness. And it's looking at doing things as a long-term approach. And that's something that, you know, every time in business, they always tell like Amanda and I, whenever we talk to our coaches, they're like, well, you shouldn't really be talking about like long term. And like to me, I'm like, but that's what to me, if I'm going to invest my money, I want to know that this is going to be gone. Like I'm going to have this problem solved for life. I don't want to have to think, okay, this works for a year and I have to go back again in a year. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you learn this skill, you have it for life. And like that really what it's about. It's like putting in the time to learn it, then practice it and apply it and coach on it. And as you build that up, right, then you will create the skill set that you will never have to struggle with your weight again or help clients never struggle with their weight again. So that's the real differences. And I just really think that, when people come to Coach Week and they start to understand what it really is and how we start to apply it and what the benefits are, and then how to coach on it in a way that's not overwhelming, it's like they leave with so much that they're so excited and leave with so much that can change their life literally within a week up to 4 weeks, because again, you might not feel great the first 2 weeks as you start to apply this stuff, or your clients do, because they're shifting, but that's normal. We just talked about that in the coaching conversation. But yeah,
Yeah. So who's in? You're gonna sign up. You have to sign up for our coach week. It's coming up January 28th to the 30th. What is the link again, Laura?
it is
To register?
fitchexacademy.com/coach week, and the tickets are free. So literally,
Yeah.
it's 3-day event. We have workshops over 3 days. We have an amazing private Facebook group where there's bonuses. We have workbooks. We have a ton of great stuff in there. You meet other challengers. We're doing pop-ups. So it's a whole event. So it's not just showing up for a workshop. So definitely grab your ticket, fitchexacademy.com/coach week. And we cannot wait to really dive into all the nitty-gritty about this, not just this top level kind of conversation.
Amazing. We will see you all at Coach Week. Make sure you grab your free ticket. And thank you so much for listening today.
Okay, guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.